Hello everyone! Today we'll be exploring the top 5 invades that high Korean challenger players like Genji, Clid, Mowgli, and more use to put the pressure on the enemy jungler before 3 minutes. And be sure to stick around for all 5 invades because the last one is especially brutal and can just remove the enemy jungler from the game before they even hit level 3. Oh, and if you want to catch hundreds of guides just like this one that are exclusive to our subscribers, then you should consider signing up at skillcapped.com. We're the only service out there that offers a refund guarantee if you don't significantly improve while using our service. So definitely consider checking us out after this guide. Anyway, the reason that we think this playstyle will be so insanely effective in lower elos is that when you invade, you force the enemy jungler to make a lot of unfamiliar decisions. You throw them out of their comfort zone completely. And anytime that you force an average to low elo player to make random choices, odds are that they will mess it up, and badly. So, in these clips today from top Korean challenger, we'll see the invading jungler picking up advantages, and that's with their highly skilled opponent knowing the correct response. So, imagine how big of an advantage we can get against players who have no idea how to respond, right? And just as a blanket statement before we start, for these invades we're obviously going to assume that you have the matchup advantage early game, so everything that we say will be made with that assumption, since that's really when you should be doing the invades that we're going to look at today. Okay, let's jump into it, telling you when and how to execute these invades, as well as how to get the biggest advantage possible from them. And first up, we have a blue, Grump, red, into enemy blue invade. The purpose of this route is to punish talisman, full clear champions who start red, Krugs, Raptors, before pathing to their blue buff side. Here are some of the main champs that do this, not that they always will, but that they are ones who can and sometimes do. And we're here at roughly 1000 LP in Korean Challenger with a jungle matchup of Trundle versus Taliyah. Taliyahs often start red and clear out the AoE camps with talisman before crossing to their blue buff side, like we mentioned earlier. Both top and bot show in lane too soon to have leashed, so Trundle doesn't know for sure where Taliyah started, so he just has to guess the most likely answer, which is red. Trundle clears out a leashless blue and takes out Grump before running down to his red side buff and clearing that. Then he immediately runs into the enemy jungle and hops the wall into the wolf pit. At 246 here, there are a number of full clear junglers who could be at wolves already depending on the leash. This game, the enemy Taliyah didn't get a leash, so she's a bit slow and isn't here yet. Either way, this is pretty aggressive and not necessary. Trundle might just be doing this because he has mid prio. But if you do this and you can find the enemy jungler on wolves, likely lower on HP than you since they've done more camps and with their abilities on CD, this can actually be a brutal invade. But alternatively, you can just take the blue, as we're going to see Trundle do after not finding Taliyah. Taliyah shows up and Trundle bullies her before being collapsed on by the enemy bot lane, but he's able to flash away, trading for Alistar's flash and ignite, and can secure the scuttle to heal back up. At this point, Trundle has denied Taliyah blue and can run topside to secure double scuttle, taking a really solid lead already despite Taliyah getting help from her bot lane. And not only are you taking Taliyah's blue and double scuttle here, but it's now almost impossible for her to get off a gank, which is one of the huge less seen benefits of invading. When you're invading, fighting the enemy jungler or denying them buffs and warding in their jungle, you're also keeping your laners safe at the same time. Now, the last thing that we want to mention here is that some junglers will skip wolves and go straight to blue, in which case they could potentially find you doing the buff. Placing this ward here will allow you to see if they're kiting the wolves toward you or heading for the blast cone, so you can see them coming and respond based on their HP. Alright, moving on, our next invade is the topside late invade where you run to the enemy's top buff a little after 120 to start there. This is a great way to sneak some camps completely hidden since laners have stopped watching the jungle usually at this point to go to lane. But we really only want to do this on topside because we want to avoid the bot side where there are more players and potential of being spotted or collapsed on. Alright, so in this first clip, we see Damwon Gaming's Canyon on Nidalee facing off against a Sylas, another jungler who wants to start at red and clear out Krugs and Raptors. But even then, he doesn't know for sure where Sylas is starting, so he walks around behind the blue wall and wards the brush. This is a really sneaky play. Right at 130, the enemy jungler won't be in the brush, so they likely won't see the ward placed. If Sylas were starting here, he could just Q smite the blue and hit level 2, at which point Sylas would be in a world of trouble. But, as predicted, Sylas did start at red, so Nidalee is just able to take blue freely, then start up the Grump. Sylas has absolutely no idea this is happening, so while Nidalee just clears out her full topside, Sylas isn't invading and actually just meets Nidalee top at scuttle. With Nidalee's lanes having prio, Sylas has to back off and is now in a terrible position, as Nidalee finishes off the scuttle before running bot to that one. Nidalee power farms scuttle, blue, Grump, and wolves. At this point, Nidalee is up 2 levels on Sylas and is double his CS before 5 minutes. Okay, now let's see a clip where Mowgli does the same thing, but on blue side invading red buff instead in a Lee Sin vs Rek'Sai matchup. At level 1, Mowgli is camping top pixel brush and late invades the enemy red with Jace. Now, Lee didn't know for sure that Rek'Sai wouldn't be here, some do start at red. So we would say only to do this if you know that the enemy jungler is starting at blue or if your top laner is in on the play, because you don't want to face check the enemy jungler and top laner Lee Sin. Anyway, Lee is able to safely take the red and head over to Raptors, dropping a ward on his way out, which is a nice little tip, to drop it right as you're leaving to maximize how long you have vision. Then he runs straight through mid to his own red to guarantee the triple buff. Not only that, but with that ward on the Raptors, this actually pretty much guarantees a double scuttle as well. We'll know if Rek'Sai paths top and can move up to match, at which point we have a winning matchup and a red buff. And if we don't see Rek'Sai top, we can secure the bot scuttle first, then return top later. Either way, this is a really simple, strong start to the game. If you're enjoying this guide, be sure to let us know with a thumbs up, or even better, hitting subscribe would be amazing. Alright, now for our third invade, we can't really cover this topic without talking about the 4-man late invade on bot side. This is an incredibly popular and common way to abuse a strong level 1 comp that is used a lot in solo queue and even competitive play to either pick up a first blood or just ruin the enemy jungler's start. In this game we have Genji Clid on Olaf, and his team has a super strong bot side invade at level 1, so that's exactly what we're going to see them do. This is very common in Korean challengers, so no one is caught off guard or killed, but the enemy Trundle ends up having to wait for and start at Kha'zix, which is not ideal. Olaf is also able to pick up the Raptors after. Whether or not you do this will depend on your champion. I also want to point out that he warded his red before joining his team for the late invade so that he would know if Trundle tried to sneak that later on. In this next clip, we once again see a super strong bot side level 1 with Pantheon Taliyah, so Lee's team just walks in and takes the red. But since Lee doesn't have nearly as fast of a Raptors take, and with no vision on his red or the enemy jungler, he runs straight back to secure the triple buff there. So obviously this type of thing will be hard to coordinate in solo queue, and you really do need the full 4-man for this to be a safe play. If you're able to pull it off in solo queue, great. Otherwise, you can always do this in Clash or Flex or whatever. Your opponents will likely be expecting this far less than these Korean challengers, and you can get a lot of value out of this play, if not just a first blood. Alright, next up we are back to solo invade strats that don't rely on your team, because no one wants to do that. And for this one, we've got the classic level 2 buff invade, where you simply cross through the river to take the buff that your opponent didn't start at. Pretty much any jungler can do this route, but being able to hop a wall into the pit at level 2 will save you some time and help you avoid any level 1 wards. Of course, other champions like Echo can technically also do this, but he has such a slow, low HP clear early that there's just way more risk involved and it's probably not worth it. Okay, so in this game we have a Nidalee versus Echo matchup, one that Nidalee absolutely wants and needs to abuse. Nidalee starts out at red and, while finishing it, sees confirmation that Echo has started red buff, seeing Aatrox coming from leash, and then that Yuumi is in the tri-brush. So Nidalee hops the pit and runs straight to Echo's blue, at which point he can see Echo on Kha'zix. Now obviously your laners will not place this much vision for you, but the odds of Echo running straight to blue are very low anyway, and he also poses no threat at level 2 if he did. Nidalee wards wolves for more info later as he finishes blue, and obviously has plenty of time to take Grump as well. He starts to clear out the wolves since Echo still isn't there, but he stops to move toward bottom as a skirmish breaks out, but is then disengaged. And this is very common in Korean solo queue, where junglers instantly move to support their laners no matter what, which maybe this is why their laners ward for them at level 1. Huh. Anyway, we then see Nidalee run to Raptors, which we just really don't understand. We know that Echo is still topside since he hasn't shown honor ward at wolves, and with 2 pushing lanes there, Nidalee could very easily secure top scuttle with the support of his lanes and transition that into a double scuttle, or just secure the triple buff at any time by taking his own blue. We think that maybe he was on autopilot or wanted to stay near bot lane since they were skirmishing, or maybe he wanted to dive there. Either way, you can see how simple an invade this was that denied 2 camps and could have been 3 as well as double scuttle. Okay, in this next game, we once again have Nidalee, this time piloted by Genji Clid, facing off against an Echo. Nidalee starts out at blue, knowing that Echo isn't starting red because they have it warded, but obviously you can watch leashes to get this info the vast majority of the time. Anyway, we see a slight variation this time by grabbing another camp before running out into the river. Why do you think he decided to take another camp before invading, unlike the last Nidalee that we saw invade right after red buff? Well, the idea here is that you pretty much always want a Grump included in this invade, whether it's yours or theirs, because that will allow you to hit level 3 in 3 camps. For example, if you did something like blue-red Raptors, that would not get you level 3. And if you did blue-red Krugs, that would, but Krugs obviously tends to be very slow, and you want to hit level 3 as soon as possible in case you run into the enemy jungler, who could be level 3 from doing blue Grump wolves. Just make sure that you don't smite your own Grump before invading because you want to have that saved for red. Anyway, moving on, we do see Nidalee continuing into the enemy jungle and stealing away Echo's red. Now, in this game, Echo did something very unique where he started Raptors and path top, which we know because the Raptors are gone, so we know that Echo is now topside. Nidalee responds to this by running back topside to protect her red as well as using her mid prio and red buff advantage to secure top scuttle, completely bullying Echo out. Nidalee starts the scuttle, naturally pushing it mid where Pantheon is pushing and securing it with smite. From here, Nidalee can either farm out her top side or run bottom to secure double scuttle depending on which lanes she wants to play around. And in this game, we see Lee Sin doing the same route against the Sylas and get to see the potential of a gank or dive bottom as well. This play gets a bit wild, but does end up as a positive for the blue team. So you can definitely translate this route into a gank as well. Alright, for our 5th and final invade route, we have something pretty unique, and that's the red to blue to Raptors route. This is a really unique route specifically designed to hard punish the red, Krugs, Raptors route that is very common and we have discussed already in this video. The big idea behind this route is that you'll have smite, and they won't since everyone smites Krugs doing that route. This will allow you to take the big Raptor easily, denying their level 3, at which point there are some really punishing things that you can do. Again, you really only want to do this on strong early clear champions who can clear these buffs quickly and get to Raptors in time. Beyond that, it helps if you don't rely on level 3, since in this case, neither jungler will get level 3 off the Raptors. And here are a bunch of champions, I'm sure there are others, who often do this red Krugs Raptors route that you can abuse with this invade, other than Kayn. He clears too quickly. Anyway, jumping into this clip, we have Mowgli on Lee Sin up against, you guessed it, an Echo. He starts out at red, runs straight over to clear out blue, then moves to meet Echo at Raptors. And we did some testing and we're actually able to get to Raptors at basically the same time without any leash, just by kiting our camps a bit better. So even if you don't get a big leash like Lee Sin did in this game, you should be fine. Also, it's a bit unlikely, but if you get there before they start Raptors, you can wait in the brush for a bit since you do want them to tank some damage and put their abilities on cooldown. Anyway, moving on, Lee is able to 100% secure the Raptor, pushing out Echo completely. Now, obviously some of you might be saying that Lee can only do this because, at this time, Zoe has a wave built that will push soon, giving mid prio to the blue team. And this is definitely fair. If you're planning on doing this route and you're clearing out the blue buff and see that the enemy mid laner is the one building a wave and is going to have prio, you can simply pivot to Grump instead of invading and hit level 3, then gank that pushing mid laner or a side lane. So if your mid has prio, you can set up this devastating invade. If not, it's no big loss. Anyway, after Raptors, both junglers are level 2, but Lee is really close to level 3, closer than Echo. So what you can do now is move through mid to invade wolves as well. Depending on exactly how many small chickens you took, you'll probably hit level 3 if you can soak any mid XP at all. But since Zoe had fully crashed the wave, that doesn't happen here. However, Lee's level 2 is still way stronger and he has double buffs. Now, this is where playing in Korean Challenger kind of sucks. Echo's bot lane instantly leaves lane, so Lee has to back out, eventually wrapping back mid to soak level 3 XP. If Echo's bot lane had stayed bot, as they almost certainly would have in your own solo queue games, Echo is about to get smashed right here. Lee could smite secure the large wolf with Q smite, hit level 3, and potentially just kill Echo or for sure blow his flash, then take blue, at which point Echo is going to be level 2 at like 4 minutes. But as it is, Lee is still able to grab Scuttle, at which point he could easily secure double Scuttle as well if he wanted to. But he warded Echo's blue earlier and sees that it's up, so he invades and loses a smite battle to an insanely well-timed E from Echo. A small skirmish breaks out around the Grump, but not much comes of it. So Echo's team really bailed him out in this game, and he had an insane blue steal. Pretty much everything went wrong for Lee, but he's still in a totally fine position in spite of that. Again, we just want to reiterate that with all of these invades that we've seen today, your odds of getting an even bigger advantage is incredibly high. Your opponents will not respond to these invades well, and their lanes will not support them nearly as quickly as in Korean Challenger. Just handshaking full clears with the enemy jungler when you have a stronger early matchup is a great way to end up coin flipping games. By forcing them out of their comfort zone early and making them make tough decisions, you're giving yourself a much better chance of winning the game. And remember to check us out at skillcapped if you're serious about climbing fast in Season 10. Over 800 guides, 100 challenger courses, direct pro coaching, and an improvement guarantee, skillcapped is the resource you need to finally get the rank that you've always wanted. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.